on this chilly night. As Michael said, I'm Kim Hunt, Executive Director of Affinity Community Services. And Affinity is a social justice organization that works with and on behalf of Black LGBT communities, queer youth, and allies. And for the last almost 20 years, we have been intentionally housed on the south side of Chicago. Can I hear something for the south side? Hey, thank you. So, I'm going to spend a little time talking about Black communities' historical participation in the marriage equality movement. And this planning committee that put the program together tonight wanted to add this part to our program so that those of you who may be new to this movement for marriage equality and other things can get a sense of the history and how this has played out over time. As I say that, I also want to honor that marriage equality is not necessarily the top priority for many people in our community. We get that. It wasn't even the top priority for, thought the microphone went off. It wasn't even the top priority for Affinity, but we were in it because of the economic implications for families and the need to recognize our families. So, Illinois became the 16th state, along with the District of Columbia, to allow same-gender loving people to get married when Governor Pat Quinn signed Senate Bill 10, also called the Religious Freedom and Marriage Fairness Act, or SB 10, into law last week. We would have been the 15th state, but Hawaii snuck past us when their legislature passed the law this month. Their governor signed it, and their law actually goes into effect December 2nd. Here, marriage becomes legal for same-sex couples on January 1st of next year. June 1st, I'm sorry. That would be nice. We were trying, I may have spoke that into reality. We'll see what happens. So the fight for marriage actually goes back to the 70s, but it's interesting that Hawaii is now one of the states that allow same-sex marriage because there was actually a case in Hawaii in the mid-90s that led to Clinton and the Congress passing, don't ask, the Defense of Marriage Act that the Supreme Court weakened this summer. Woo! Yeah. But I'll jump back to recent history in Illinois. So beginning in 2011, same-sex couples could have civil unions. In this state, civil unions allow couples to have all the rights that married heterosexual couples have at the state level. Civil unions have no impact on federal law. That means no Social Security, no ability to sponsor your partner if your partner is a foreign-born person, and a host of other family protections. And at the end of 2012, organizations and individuals were asked to join a coalition to get marriage equality legislation passed in this state. In the beginning of 2013, SB 10 was introduced by the chief sponsor, Senator Heather Stearns. Let's hear it for Heather. And on Valentine's Day of this year, SB 10 was passed in the Senate. And although the legislation was approved in a relatively short period of time, it wasn't without casualties. Since we're focused on Black people's involvement in the marriage fight here, you should know that the members of the Black Caucus in the Senate who supported the bill took a lot of flack from ministers who were opposed to marriage, and they're still taking flack from those groups, along with other folks. I heard that. So then, after the bill passed in the Senate, it had to go to the House. And that's when things got really interesting, right? So Representative Greg Harris became chief sponsor of the bill. Let's hear it for Greg. Black clergy for and against the bill demonstrated their views in person via phone, emails, letters, and social media. The Chicago Urban League was a very early supporter, along with other left-leaning institutions. And there were many discussions with legislators and their constituents to get the 60 votes necessary to pass the bill. Affinity, along with Mike O'Connor, went to Springfield in March to talk to members of the Black Caucus about the bill, and were told about the robocalls that Reverend Meeks was kind of spearheading to put the pressure on the Black legislators to not vote for the bill. And that they weren't seeing very many black LGBTQ constituents coming to talk to them about the bill, which gave them the ability to say that this wasn't an area of interest for black LGBT people. So after that trip, and even on the way back, Mike and I were on the phone strategizing, calling people all the way back to Chicago. And one of the things that happened is that Ben Montgomery helped to organize a bus of black LGBTQ people. And that busload of folks was called the All Families Are Equal Coalition. And they went to Springfield to talk to members of the Black Caucus. And I would add that that was a group of about 30 or more people, and there were transgender and youth people on that bus too, so we had a wide range of folks. Affinity, the Chicago Urban League, Lambda Legal also talked about the importance of marriage for same-sex couples, especially black ones, and other issues several times on WVON. Woo! That's, I could write a book about that. In WBEZ, many of our organizations wrote letters in support of SB 10 and encouraged our members and constituents to contact their representatives to voice their support for the bill. The Chicago Urban League also hosted a community forum to update folks on what was happening with the bill about a week before the end of the spring legislative session. And some of our white brothers and sisters came to the south side of the Chicago Urban League. That was a moment. We have pictures. So as we know, despite our efforts and those of many, many others, on May 31st, the last day of the session, Representative Greg Harris spoke from the House floor saying that he would not call the bill because the votes were not there. He vowed to call the bill during the fall veto session. One of the things that happened is the following week, Affinity issued a public statement calling for more inclusivity in the next phase of the work. There was a lot of anger, sometimes some racial undertones to some of the discussion about the Black Caucus not stepping up in particular, and a tremendous amount of frustration because space had not been made for small organizations and community members and allies to engage in the fight. But for as disappointing as that was, it gave the community a chance to regroup and the lead organizations and individuals in the campaign a chance to rethink its strategies. Affinity, the Chicago Black Gay Men's Caucus, the Lighthouse Church, United Black Pride, Adobe, and other black LGBTQ leaders and allies were brought to the table early on to discuss how to do this better. A revamped Illinois Unites for Marriage Coalition staffed for a real campaign was created. The Chicago Urban League joined the steering committee and housed the Illinois Unite staff. I don't know if many people knew that, but that's where the staff was. Black LGBTQ leaders were consulted on messaging, hosting the screening of The New Black, a documentary about black involvement in the marriage equality fight in Maryland. Asked to find couples of color to feature social media. Ooh, that was a job. And as well as traditional media. Black clergy stepped up to join the fight in even greater numbers. Progressive allied organizations stepped up. There were media buys on black radio. I don't know if some of you heard those ads on WVON. And organizations sponsored phone banks and letter writing campaigns and kept their members and constituents informed and engaged. And it must be said that a real game changer was the March on Springfield. The brainchild of this So when Tracy invited me to coffee to talk over a new idea, I knew it was going to be big, and oh boy was it. There were over 5,000 people who showed up on that cold, rainy day on October 22nd. Affinity's bus was one of more than 50 that came from across the state. Yes. Studs for Life, that you're over there. Organized this dinner, and they were definitely on our bus, loud and proud. They even got to tour the vault in the treasurer's office. Yeah. It was empty, don't worry. So, and a couple of things converged to ensure that there were black LGBTQ people and allies in Springfield on November 5th. Marquel Smith and the Inclusive Community Project have planned the Communities of Color Lobby Day. And Illinois Unites have been working with Black LGBTQ leadership to organize meetings with legislators on that day. But instead of going to all those meetings and lobbying, or educating legislators, as we like to say, as 501c3s, we made our way to the House Gallery. And we were there when SB 10 was introduced, debated, and passed. This is definitely a win for our communities, but it hasn't come without cost. Earlier this year, the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights made a public statement in support of marriage equality. Yeah. And its members were defunded by the Catholic Campaign for Human Development. Fortunately, Crossroads is housing the Solidarity Fund, which was set up to take donations to help ICER members cover their funding gap. The majority of members of the Illinois Black Legislative Caucus voted for this bill, despite what people said. And we need to support those who have supported our community. They stepped up against significant odds. The churches that were against this bill have revved up their opposition. Some of the Black legislators who supported this bill are going to have well-funded challengers who are against LGBTQ rights in the next election. So we encourage you to call your state representative and senator to thank them for supporting your right to marry, whether marriage is on your mind right now or not. So that's a quick and dirty history that will be written in greater detail.
This is a real bishop. Not like somebody who gave themselves the title of bishop like Larry Trotter. This is a real minister of God. Not like the empty seats that swirl through James Meek's house of no hope.
That we may have moved to a new state, but my family sees a similar state of mind. Now, I don't believe that every single politician who is against marriage equality is actually against marriage equality. But I do believe they are uncomfortable telling their constituents how they voted. I have a message for them. We don't care.